reasons for doing so, the impact on the content going forward, not just within my controller guide series, but also how it will impact our collabs over at Work to Game and news coverage, as well as FanFest. So this video is going to be quite detailed. I'm going to talk about my reasons first and foremost.
Can I just say, this has nothing to do with the video, but I've always really loved this logo. Not gonna lie, especially because he does do everything with the controller. And I love dragons anyway, but like, this is cool. I know, it is cool. Exactly. We're also dog sitting, so I have a couple of extra pups over here.
My reasons first and foremost, and then I'm going to cover kind of my plan going forward. If you guys want, you can jump to any specific section of this video that interests you the most. Now, that being said, I know this video probably will upset some people, and at the same time, I know there'll probably be people who are rejoicing that I'm leaving Final Fantasy XIV, and to both of those.
That's a horrible thing to feel. Obviously, there have been a lot of meme posts in the Reddit about Work to Game, especially. I haven't seen much about gingerprime, but specifically Work to Game, and then there have been some meme videos as well about calling their content like super clickbaity. Exactly.
Those groups, like hopefully you guys have the best day ever. I only wish good things for you always. But I consider myself an honest person.
That's really sweet. I wouldn't.
I always try to, be really honest with each and every one of you about how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and that's what this video is going to be. If anybody's been following my content for any period of time, none of this should come off as a surprise. We probably had these conversations more in private and on stream, but I want to be honest with you guys. I want to be direct with you guys, and I'm going to tell you what's going on. Now, if you guys want to see a review of Endwalker, I just posted that over on gingerxIV. You can go check that out. I've got some plans for that channel.
Wait, gingerxIV? There's another channel that I didn't know about. Like, how many channels does this man have? And I'm not even saying that to be mean. Like, they're all actually very successful, so kudos, but holy crap.
But we're not going to cover that here in this video. But there's 3 main reasons why I'm leaving Final Fantasy XIV, and I want to be also very direct and not have set false expectations. This isn't a break. I've been and have taken breaks from Final Fantasy XIV. This is something very, very different. I'm actually not burned out of Final Fantasy XIV. This is something very, very different because I've experienced those things in the past. I feel like...
And it's different.
Final Fantasy XIV, I'm looking for them to invite me back into the game, and maybe 7.0 will be that re-invitation to the game. But
maybe.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not committing or promising that I will be back for 7.0 or 8.0. It's really going to be on Square Enix and to see if they kind of make a game that I want to play and I want to invest my time in, but that hasn't been the case, and that hasn't been the
Everybody always comes back for an expansion.
case for a while. I think it's been the story that's kind of held me on. The story's been completed, and after having...
That's what holds everyone on. That's why everyone that swapped over to 14 from WoW went back to WoW for Dragonflight because it's a new expansion, and it's downtime in 14.
Finished Omni 90, I could tell you that experience was the hardest thing I've had to do. And in regards to that, let's go ahead and dive into my reasons for leaving Final Fantasy XIV, just so we're all on the same page. I've been covering Final Fantasy XIV for over 13 years. Longer if you actually count Project Rapture. This equates to easily over 120,000 hours I have bled.
So, I checked out the comments for this video, and I'm sorry for being such a pause champ, but it really is funny because there were a lot of people that were like, that's more hours than the game's even been out. But he's talking cumulatively about 11 and 14, so.
Final Fantasy XIV. I have slept, I have dreamed, I have daydreamed, I've written, and I have been a part of this community before it even was a community, before there was even a game. I don't know why. This game just, captured my attention as a Final Fantasy fan, as an 11 player looking to see what this next generation Final Fantasy game could be. And so it's been an incredible journey. During said time for this game, I wasn't even married, I had no kids. Now here I am as a father of 5, and that's really the first reason I want to invest more time in my family. Clearly, they are everything to me. And I've been coaching soccer, been coaching baseball, we've been riding bikes, we've been doing so many fun things. And what I had to do to help get the content out, especially for, and I'm going to finish the controller guides, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I would be getting up at 5 a.m. every day. I'd be going to bed after 10. Like, these are some very long days that I have to be as a provider for the family, but also try to be present for the family, and at the same time also working on content. People have often asked, how do you do it, Brian? I can't, like, you put out content, you're doing all these things.
20-hour days. That's how you do it. Calculated it with my husband earlier this morning. And Oscar. That's his input. It's literally, we have a game store. We are getting back into content creation. We both have extra side jobs to make sure that the game store works during winter time, because our town is more of a tourist town, which is more active in the summer. So 20-hour days. That's how it works.
How are you doing it? And it's like, I would always say, like, I get up before everybody else does. Like, I'm up very early and I'm going to bed very late, and that takes a toll. That takes a big toll on anybody, right? And so I want to pour more of my time back into my kids and into my family, and this, I think, is a really good thing. They are like everything, and I'm looking, maybe one day they'll want to step into Final Fantasy XIV, and at that point, when they're old enough, that might be my re-invitation back.
I remember talking to Brian back in the day, and him saying that he wanted to have enough kids for a raid team. He's working on it, and his talking about having his kids step into 14 when they're able to is no joke. So if anyone took this with a grain of salt, no, he legitimately wants a raid team family. I mean, heck, that's kind of what I want. So
back to the game, but when it comes down to it, I feel very complete with the way that Final Fantasy XIV ended. I don't like how it ended personally, and you can go watch that video if you're interested.
Now I have to watch that video.
I'm not rehashing it here, but I feel complete. I feel very satisfied with my experience, and that's why this all falls down into, will they re-invite me back into the game? Ultimately, time will be the teller here, but no, I want to pour myself into that. I want to invest in my family. I want to invest in my health so that I can continue to be with my family. And that really ties into, I'm not streaming late at night. I can't keep getting up at this early. I'd rather be investing my time if I'm going to get up early and exercise and making sure that I'm eating right and meals are planned so that I can try to be there for them for as long as I can. And I think that makes a lot of sense, and hopefully people understand that. The second main reason is I'm going to keep investing into my comedy career. As a stand-up comedian,
I was really weird about hearing this, because I didn't know. I kind of assumed that with the items that Brian talked about and being on the short end of a lot of those items, even though it didn't affect him, because he actually has a pretty good, solid exterior and he doesn't let things affect him, that it would be a lot of fodder for comedy. But I would have never thought that he would have pursued a career or even a hobby in comedy, and he actually goes to places to perform with other people. So yeah, that's awesome.
I'm having great success. Even outside of being successful in this space and having people show up for shows and keep getting invited back to shows and just ultimately really having a wonderful time with stand-up comedy, it's incredible for my mental health. There is so much that I get to explore, and I get to be funny, and I get to just really kind of not have to worry about the internet and the rules of the internet. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, I made a joke in a video, and literally obviously lots of positive, but the negatives always seem to float up, and it's those notes, those people who stated these dumb things about the...
It's the vocal minority. That's the same as what people call the toxicity of...
Oh, really?
of A, B, or C. It's always, well, I had to deal with these type of people and that's why I'm leaving this game, or this was always the thing I came into contact with.
I have no idea.
Or this was the thing I came into contact with and it really upset me and blah, 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 this or that or whatever. And it's always a vocal minority, even if it doesn't seem like it. And there are seriously rules of the internet. So in the next video that Brian has, he talks about having winning thumbnails and knowing that formula to make sure that a video at least does decently well and, grabbing attention and things like that. And it's not wrong. It's one of those things where especially on social media and using social media to your advantage, you have to say the right thing. You have to be for the current thing. And if you're not, you just don't say anything, because if you say something against it, well, you might have just ended your career, especially if you're a content creator. So it's a lot of people picked on this part of the video that I saw, but it's completely fair. Honestly, it really is.
The joke, which was clearly a joke, that is the reason why I will never post my stand-up on the internet. And that because people are just so hypersensitive and they just can't seem to handle certain things. And it's not even like an offensive joke. It's just, it is what it is, right? But that just kind of reaffirms, like, I love being a stand-up comedian. I'm having great success being a stand-up comedian. Maybe I can get to the point where I can take the show on the road, and maybe more people can then be a part of that. And so the second piece of this is that I'm going to invest more time into my stand-up, into writing jokes. So again, family comes first, comedy, right there after that. And then the third reason, which also won't come as a shocker for those of you who've been following the content, New World is just so effing good. It is such a great game, and it delivers on the things that I've been advocating for in the world of Final Fantasy. And
I only played a little bit of New World, so I can't really comment on this. The only thing that was weird for me was it was top-down, which I did like for Diablo, but for an MMO, it was really weird to me. And having it be more linear, I don't know if it's just at the beginning. I did actually play a little bit then. New World isn't the one I'm talking about.
No, New World's over the shoulder.
And that's where I'm drawn to. Like, I can't deny the fun and the community that we've had. And so all of those things, being somebody who has limited time, somebody who wants to spend his time and put them in the right buckets, leads me to saying, if I can play just one game, what game do I want to play? And this all came to a head when both New World and 14 had an update on the very same day. 14 deserves better than me having to force myself to play it for the content. And when that, because I was kind of feeling it, I was kind of questioning it. And
Nobody plays it for the content. You play it for the MSQ, and then everybody else says they go live in 14, but then they react to other people playing 14 just starting out, or even other things, because everybody wants to be an Asmongold light in FF14 Twitch. And I'm sorry, but that's true. Like, I really have no issues with anyone. Like, I know it's a vocal minority. I know some people can be toxic. I know that it's quite a bit different, especially with my coming from World of Warcraft. And so people see me immediately as a troll, and they're not wrong. But, yeah. I mean, that's what a lot of 14 content is. I hate to break it to you, but you don't do it for the content. Not even Zeppelin does it for the content.
I was hoping that maybe the updates would be staggered, so yeah, I could be a part of, both, because Final Fantasy is a good game. Like, hopefully none of this comes across as like, oh, you shouldn't play Final Fantasy. No, I'd still highly encourage you to check it out if you never played Final Fantasy. But at its core, I wanted to be in New World. That's where I want to spend my time when I have time to game, and that's where I'm going to spend it, and that's why I'm leaving Final Fantasy 14. My fear is that New World goes down the same route that World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 have gone down.
Hey! I haven't played it yet. I'm planning on doing today, but as far as I can tell, Dragonflight has been a complete breath of fresh air for World of Warcraft, and a lot of people have been calling it the best expansion since TBC, which is huge, especially since Wrath of the Lich King had the best story with Arthas and Icecrown Citadel and had the best raid. So I don't think WoW has gone down the same downward spiral, especially since the lore is so deep. And this is a bit different, and it's more of my opinion, but for 14, the reason why I really like it is because it has a great linear story, something that you can follow through from beginning to end with each expansion. For a lot of people, it might be a lot. It might be a lot of game time. It might be a lot of, dialogue, a lot of fetch quests. But for me, it was like, yeah, this is a really cool story. For WoW, it's a vast amount of world building and history, and I know that a lot of it has to do with it being a thing before Final Fantasy XIV was a thing, but it's just so rich in multiple stories rather than just one main scenario that it's so malleable that I don't think it will ever fall to the same thing as what Brian is describing in 14. Feel free to discuss in the comments below if you feel differently, but that's just the way I feel about it.
You can see how that leads to issues in their success. Their success has eventually led to an issue, and shouldn't we all be blessed to have that level of success that the games, I think, have struggled with late in their life cycle? And so that's hopefully something that, as a player, that I can continue to provide feedback for that game and make something new. I love that New World feels like it's a game that they're willing to take risks, and I really, really appreciate that, where in Final Fantasy's terms, whether it's Square Enix, a budget, or whatever, it's a game that just doesn't take risks. It's a game that we've advocated for risk taking, but either they're just too burnt by the original launch, too scared, or from a financial perspective, it just isn't in their best interest. And I can respect that, but I wish they would.
That is one thing that I've never mentioned in previous videos, but I've kind of talked about on stream, especially when I was playing things like Guild Wars 2, is that especially for boss fights, regardless of how intricate the mechanics may be, a lot of the boss fights, even though it matches up with the MSQ and is tying loose ends, or however you want to put it, a lot of those are almost like rehashed fights. You know, you have multiple fights that have Ifrit. You have like multiple fights that have Titan. You have multiple fights that have Shiva. And it just seems like a lot of it is a rehash, and then it's like, oh, what's the new hard mode content? Well, they're bringing in harder content of, you know, older instances, and so there's a whole new, you know, difficulty level, and so that's new content. Well, no, not really. It's the same fight rehashed multiple times, and there's only so many things that you can do with movement, which seems to be what like 14 raids are based around, is like movement and having that, you know, like DPS line that you have to hit, and also tanks being able to just hit a certain ability at the certain right time. And a lot of it is the same whilst still varying a tad bit for each fight. But that's how I felt. I felt like a lot of it was recycled, and I've never really mentioned it, but now it's relevant to mention for this video.
Wish 14 was a game that took risks, and it's just not anymore. And honestly,
I still think it's a good
I'm
game.
Sure this is going to be probably the most upsetting thing I say in this video. Honestly, feels like it's a game that's designed as a way to placate angry WoW players. It's a game that's set up to catch the player who get.
You're not wrong, especially with Shadowbringers in the beginning of Endwalker. And that's okay. Because it did for a while for a lot of people, but again, they've all moved back to WoW.
So angry at World of Warcraft, here's a nice place to land. That's a great business model. Honestly, it's pretty damn smart. And at the end of the day, it's just not a game that exists for me anymore, and that's perfectly fine. Not every game has to be for Brian, and despite my time with it, I don't regret any of the time I spent in 14. I don't regret helping people get into the game at all, but it's time for me to say goodbye, and those are the 3 reasons why I'm leaving Final Fantasy 14. So it's at this point we talk about what comes next. Brian, what about the controller guide?
It's at this point that we could end the video, but we're gonna go on for another couple of minutes because hey, it's the work to game way, and Brian's really good at this, so we have another 4 minutes. 6 minutes.
Brian, what about live letters? What about FanFest? What about you and Chris at Work to Game? How is the content going to be structured? Work to Game was always a collaborative vision. A vision of sitting down and discussing MMORPGs. Vision of discussing video games
It should be done more often over a beer.
overall, but obviously a passion for the MMO. Chris has a great love for World of Warcraft. He loves Guild Wars 2. I agree with him on Guild Wars, not so much on World of Warcraft.
My heart. I came from World of Warcraft, and then I ended up playing Final Fantasy XIV because specifically one viewer, Gwydion, if you don't mind my calling you out here, and I loved it for different reasons. And then I played Guild Wars 2 because of my husband, and I think they all have different items that keep me engaged. But World of Warcraft is always my first love and will always be the perfect MMO for me. So it hurts to hear how Brian feels about it, but that's okay.
But we also share a handful of games, and so we're going to continue those discussions, and we're going to continue that show. And if you guys are interested in that, that's something that we're going to keep moving forward on. When it comes to the controller guides specifically, I've got 6 left to finish. I'm going to finish those. I started this. I want to make sure that everybody who's been waiting for those is able to get what they need so they can enjoy the job that they want on the input that they enjoy playing the game on. Hopefully that helps out. It always is very encouraging to me when I hear somebody, either they enjoy it, their kids end up playing enjoying the game and they're able to play with their family because controller's a little bit more easy to understand, I think, personally, if you've never played on mouse and keyboard. And then also for those of you who are physically impaired, who have some kind of, inability to play on a mouse and keyboard, that I've been able to help out. So that means a lot to me, and I'm very glad that I've been able to help out. But the reality is I'm going to finish those. I don't think I'm going to do, if I ever play the game again, any kind of crazy Omni 100 or whatever they end up doing, namely because I think that really is a big thing that I didn't enjoy. I did it out of the love for the community, despite some of the community just being the absolute worst of humanity.
Is the 14 community toxic? Let me know in the comments below.
Like, I did it out of the love for the really good people, the parts of the community that I love. And so I want to finish those because I want people to be able to have that. Maybe somebody will step up and do controller guides, from here on out, and that'd be great. Maybe they'll simplify and figure out some things to do, bring in some really cool technology. That'd be great too, within the controller setup. I'll be very curious, again, looking for a reinventation, because they talk about another 10-year plan, and I don't know, it feels like it's complete.
10 years? And that's what's weird to me, is a lot of people were excited about going back to your roots and just being a new adventure after Endwalker and seeing, what tasks befall you and what you can pick up and leave. And it just sounds like a sandboxy, crappy D&D campaign where the DM is never prepared and he's just like, yeah, so I have like these 4 NPCs, and then you can just decide which NPC that you want to talk to, and then based on that and the things that you have in your inventory and what you want to do, you can construct your own story, which to some people might be great, but that to me, that's not a way an MMO should be designed. And if people enjoy it, that's fine. I haven't played past the Endwalker story, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out for me, but it just doesn't seem enticing at all, honestly, and which is why I haven't really gone into anything, which is funny because I was really excited about the Island Sanctuaries, but that's how it feels like to me. It feels like a lot of things were wrapped up. Some things might have been left open, but they're not currently in the MSQ. So I don't know if I'll ever feel really like playing again. I don't know.
Complete, and I'm happy with where it was. So that's where I'm going to finish those. And then in terms of live letters and coverage of the news, I've got 13 plus years experience with this game. I think I can provide a lot of historical.
I mean, all you have to know about the live letters is what merch they're going to put out for, like, who's the husbando and waifu recently, and if they're going to put it out on pillows, figurines, t-shirts, which I really shouldn't say anything about because I do have a Hades t-shirt from the aforementioned Gwydion, who's the person who got me into Final Fantasy XIV, but still.
Value and also a level of curiosity. Is this a piece of content that would make me want to play the game again? However, and with respect to those of you guys who might be upset that somebody who's not playing the game is covering it, and we know that those people exist,
I'm upset.
Be looking for feedback. If it ends up causing too much trouble, too much drama, too many trees like hitting the window, I'll be sure to kind of take that into account and would be willing to step away from that coverage if it became an issue where it was just causing people pain. I'm not here to dunk on your game and kill your joy. Like, I'm a very joyful person. And
no, because that's what people from WoW did. Everybody swapped over to 14 and they were like, WoW is fascist and racist and bigots, and 14 is where it's at. Prove me wrong.
And I really want Final Fantasy XIV to do better and to be better. And it's unfortunate that as a game, it's become that. It's become a game where the idea that it could improve is such an insult to people versus where in New World, like, saying the game can improve, everybody gets excited. Like, yeah.
It's like in Guild Wars 2. It's people that say that the game can improve are people that get, like, shit on all the time or, like, absolutely praised. There's no, like, in between. It's like Teapot is like, man, I really think they could work on this and this. And, it's the same thing with, like, Nike and a few others where it's just like, oh, I think the game can improve this way. And you either have your people that are like, yeah, this would be so cool. And then you have the people like, you're just hardcore raiders and PvPers and you just care about the 0.1% and, like, the game's going in a good direction and we don't need anything more. It's funny. It really is.
Yes. oh my gosh, imagine when we see this happen and when we can get this kind of content. Like, it's a very hopeful group, where in 14 it's a very defensive and in a way insecure kind of
Yes.
defensive. I always kind of was.
And it's funny because before I started this reaction, I saw someone else who kind of tried to parse what Brian said for different context, I assume. And the person was like, well, he's saying this because he was always scared and he went down a negative spiral and, you know, he just finally voiced his opinion. And it's like, no, it bottled up. But it is true that for quite a few, and again, it could be the vocal minority, where if you said anything negative about Final Fantasy XIV at all, it was just like people who were bowing down to Yoshi P like, no, this game is incredible and it's all inclusive and it's woke and it's amazing. And how dare you? And there were these other people that were like, yeah, this would be better for, you know, the competitive people. This would be better for people that were interested in story. This would be better for people who are interested in alts. And, you know, you'll always have those haters. And it's unfortunate that they're there, but it is a vocal minority. And I even have to tell myself that a lot of times, so.
Confused by that mindset, you know, that the idea that you're playing a game that does change in its nature, but yet you're absolutely afraid of that community policing is it just drives every good idea and even every bad idea, just it's got to crush them all, because you can't let this game change. We
Pokemon
have to, you know, control the narrative, and it's not for those reasons that I'm leaving. The 3 reasons I listed are the reasons, but I'm sure that those people will pop
family comedy New World, don't forget it.
their head in occasion, but you know what, that's the game that they play. But that's essentially my plan, and those are the reasons why Final Fantasy XIV isn't the game for me. I really would love for it to become a game for me again. I've debated regarding FanFest. I want to go because even if it's 7.0 isn't a re-invitation, I want to hang out with everybody. We haven't had a physical FanFest in a while, and it'd be really great to see everybody, to hang out with everybody, to share that experience, if not at least for one last time, one last hurrah. But I'll keep you guys
Oof. That like hit me in the feels, man. That gave me chills, and I've never even met the guy. Much respect.
up to date on what that plan looks like, because I don't know, like right now I have subscription, and some of you guys are so generous, especially with my financial situation over the last couple of months, that were able to gift me sub time, and so one thought I have is continuing to keep my sub active as a part of going or trying to go to FanFest. I don't know if I'll get media access or not. I mean, that's obviously a question. Maybe Chris will be the only one who gets media access, who knows. But I'm not going to sit here and try to placate that and at the same time not be enjoying the content and not enjoying the time. But that's going to be the plan. Now, I have debated shifting my subscription into the Final Fantasy XI bucket because Final Fantasy XI means a lot to me. I'm debating on that. I have not yet reached a decision. You can let me know how you feel either way in the comments. I'll be very curious as to that. But
how people feel in the comments is you just are moving from 14 to New World, Omega lol. No one answered the question.
Most of my time, if in terms of gaming, is really going to be focusing in on New World. Obviously, I'm very excited and looking forward to the future MMOs as well, so I'll be looking forward to that, and that's something where I'll shift my coverage to. I don't know what I'll do yet with XIV. I might become an 11 channel, might just be a general Final Fantasy channel. At the end of the day, I there's no wrong answers. We're just looking for the questions to ask, and that's going to be the thought there. But I wanted to give you guys this message. I wanted to give you guys these thoughts, and wish you all the best, and thank you so much for all the support, especially within the world of Final Fantasy over these years. And hopefully none of this is surprising. Hopefully none of this upset you, but you can let me know one way or the other. Thanks guys so much again for your time. Thanks for listening to these words. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But until then, take care.